The human officer sat alone in the quiet mess hall of the station, the hum of alien machinery echoing faintly around him. He was used to silence, used to being ignored by the alien delegates who walked past him with cold eyes. But tonight, silence was broken by something he did not expect. A tiny figure entered, barely reaching his chest in height. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes bright like glowing crystals. She was an envoy from the Alien Council, respected, distant, and always untouchable. Yet she stopped right in front of him, her small hands folded in an odd gesture. "Human," she said in a soft voice. "I invite you to my quarters tonight." The officer froze. He had been on this station for 3 months, and not once had an alien offered him something personal. Aliens here kept to themselves. They saw humans as dangerous, unpredictable, but this was strange. For what purpose? He asked carefully. His voice echoed louder than he intended. "For cultural exchange," she replied quickly. Her voice carried a note of urgency, like she had practiced the phrase many times. Her eyes, however, betrayed nervousness. The officer narrowed his gaze. Was this a test? A trick? Or something more? Still, curiosity pulled at him. No one on Earth had ever been this close to understanding their alien hosts, and now, here stood a chance. Unexpected, risky, but real. "I will come," he said finally. His heart raced. The envoy nodded once, then turned sharply and walked away. Her small frame disappeared into the glowing corridors, leaving the human alone with his thoughts. He could not focus on his food anymore. Questions swirled in his mind. Why him? Why now? What was she hiding, under the mask of cultural exchange? Later that night, he walked through the alien station's halls. The lights were dim, the walls curved like living stone. Shadows stretched long as he passed. He felt eyes on him, though no one followed. At the end of the corridor stood her door, carved with glowing symbols. He raised his hand, hesitating. One knock could change everything. The door slid open before he touched it. She stood inside, waiting. Her quarters glowed with soft blue light. Unlike the cold gray halls of the station, it felt warm, almost alive. The air carried a strange, sweet scent. "Enter," she said firmly. He stepped inside. His boots tapped against the smooth floor. The room was filled with artifacts, small, crystals that pulsed faintly with light, fabrics that shimmered like liquid. A world hidden from human eyes until now. The envoy motioned to a low seat. Her hands trembled slightly as she gestured. He noticed but said nothing. "You came," she whispered almost to herself. "You invited me," he answered, his tone careful. She nodded. Sitting across from him, her bright eyes locked on his. There was silence between them, thick and heavy. Finally, she spoke again. "What do humans fear most?" The question struck him like a blow. It was not small talk. It was not polite diplomacy. It was something raw, direct. "Fear?" he repeated. "We fear many things. We fear being alone. We fear losing those we love. We fear being powerless." Her eyes widened slightly. She leaned forward, as if she had never heard such words spoken. "With honesty, your people, you value emotions so deeply," she murmured. "To us, emotions are dangerous. They can break order. They can shatter control. That is why I wanted to meet you, human." The officer's chest tightened. This was no cultural exchange. It was something more. She was searching for something. Something her own people had lost or hidden, but why trust him? Why risk her position for a single human? "Why me?" he asked quietly. Her voice lowered, trembling. "Because you are different. You do not look at me with fear. You do not look at me with disgust. You look at me like I matter." Her words echoed in the chamber. For a moment, the officer forgot he was surrounded by alien walls. For a moment, it felt human, but deep down he knew danger lurked in her request. If the council discovered this meeting, it would not end well. Still, he felt a pull, a strange bond forming where none should exist. He leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. If this is truly cultural exchange, then tell me the truth. What do you want from me? The envoy's lips parted. Her eyes flickered with fear, then resolve. I want to understand what it means to be human, she said. Before my council destroys everything that makes you who you are. The words hit him harder than any weapon. Suspense tightened the room like a noose. His chest rose with sharp breath. He realized this invitation was not about learning. It was about survival. The envoy's eyes begged him for trust, for silence, for alliance. Her quarters were not just private chambers. They were a battlefield of secrets, and the night had only just begun. The human stepped deeper into the envoy's private quarters. His eyes adjusted to the soft glow that filled the room. The place was nothing like the cold council chambers or the metallic corridors of the station. It felt alive, almost breathing. The walls curved like shells, shimmering faintly with light, as if tiny stars were trapped inside them. The envoy stood, silently, watching him. Her hands were clasped together tightly. She seemed nervous, yet her eyes burned with determination. She was small, fragile in size, but in that moment she carried the weight of something larger than herself. You are the first human to see this place, she said softly. Her voice trembled but carried pride. The human looked around. Every surface seemed to tell a story. Strange crystals floated in midair, humming with low energy. Fabrics hung from the ceiling, changing colors as though reacting to his presence. A bowl of liquid shimmered like quicksilver, reflecting his face in distorted waves. This is different, he murmured. His voice carried caution but also wonder. It is forbidden, she admitted. Her words came with a heavy pause. But I had no choice. If I wanted to know the truth about you, I had to bring you here, away from the council's eyes. The human raised a brow. Truth? He asked. She walked closer, her small feet making no sound on the glowing floor. She stopped right in front of him, tilting her crystal-like eyes up to meet his gaze. Yes, truth, she whispered. The council does not believe in peace. They do not trust you. They only see humans as unpredictable, dangerous, and yet, when I look at you, I see something else. Something they fear to acknowledge. The human's heart tightened. His instincts told him he had stepped into dangerous territory, yet curiosity kept him still. He could feel that every word she spoke was a risk. And what is that? He asked carefully. That you feel, she said, almost like a confession. You love, you hope, you fight not only for yourself but for others, my people. They lost this long ago. Emotions are weaknesses to them, but I believe emotions are strength. Her voice broke slightly. She turned away, walking to a shelf where more glowing artifacts rested. She touched one gently, and the crystal pulsed, lighting her silver skin. The human took a breath. If you speak against your council, won't you be punished? Yes, she admitted, her voice thin. If they discover I invited you here, they will strip me of my title. Perhaps worse, but I could not remain silent anymore. The tension in the room deepened. The human felt as if invisible walls pressed. In around them, he understood the weight of her words. This was not just a meeting, it was a confession of rebellion. The envoy turned back to him, her eyes shimmering with something close to desperation. Tell me, human, why do you risk so much for others? Why do you sacrifice yourselves? Why not live only for your own survival? The human leaned against the curved wall, his jaw tightening. He thought of battles fought, of friends lost, of promises kept. Because without others, we are nothing, he said, his voice was steady. We protect those we love because it gives meaning to our lives. Without meaning, survival is empty. Her lips parted as though she was holding her breath. For a moment she stood frozen. Then slowly she whispered, Meaning? That word does not exist in our language. Silence fell again, but it was heavy with revelation. The human could see it in her face. This was not about politics. This was personal. She was searching for something missing in her people's way of life. Suddenly, A faint noise echoed from the hall outside. Both of them froze. The envoy's eyes widened. She rushed forward and pressed her tiny hand against the wall. The surface rippled like water, and the door sealed itself tighter. "They must not know you are here," she hissed. Her body trembled with fear. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Someone is watching. I can feel it." The human tensed, his instincts sharpened. He scanned the room, half expecting the walls to open and guards to rush in, but no one entered. The silence returned thick and uneasy. The envoy let out a shaky breath. "It is dangerous even to speak with you. But still I must understand." She stepped closer again, her small hands clenched. "Teach me about loyalty. Teach me about trust. Tell me how humans can believe in something greater than themselves." The human met her eyes. In that instant, he realized the truth. This cultural exchange was never about knowledge. It was about survival. She wanted to learn what her own kind had forgotten, but he also knew this path was dangerous. If he taught her, he risked exposing himself, and Earth, if he refused, he might condemn her to despair. He lowered his voice. "If I tell you everything, you must promise me one thing." Her eyes blinked. "What promise?" "That you will use it not for power, not for manipulation, but for peace," he said firmly. His gaze locked on hers. She placed her tiny hand over her chest. "I promise," she whispered. Her words carried the weight of desperation and hope together. The crystals in the room pulsed brighter as though responding to the vow. The human felt the air shift, heavy with unspoken destiny. The envoy lowered her head slightly, her voice trembling but strong. "Tonight marks the beginning of something, forbidden human. You are not just a guest in my quarters. You are part of a secret that could change everything." The human's chest tightened. He realized that from this moment forward, there was no turning back. The human sat still in the envoy's quarters, the strange glow of the floating crystals casting shadows across his face. The air was heavy, filled with silence and the faint hum of alien energy. He knew she was hiding, something she could not easily say. The envoy paced the room slowly, her small steps making no sound on the glowing floor. Her hands twisted nervously. Her crystal-like eyes darted toward the sealed door as if she feared it might open at any moment. Finally, she stopped, turning to him with a look of desperation. "There is something I must tell you," she whispered. Her voice cracked as though speaking the words would break her. The human leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Then tell me," he said. His voice was calm, but inside his chest his heart was pounding. She hesitated, her lips trembling. "The council, they do not want peace." The words hung in the air like a blade. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The human's jaw tightened. His suspicion had been correct all along. "What do you mean?" he asked carefully, though deep down he already knew. "They sent me here as a symbol only," she said, her eyes filling with something close to shame. "My task is not to build peace. My task is to make humans believe peace is possible, while the council prepares for war." The human's stomach turned. He had fought wars before, seen lies dressed as promises. But to hear it from her, an envoy who had invited him into her private chambers, it struck deeper. "Why tell me this?" he asked sharply. His tone carried suspicion. "If this is true, you risk your life by saying it." Her small hands clenched tightly. "Because I cannot watch it happen. I cannot let my people destroy yours. I have seen humans closely now. I have seen how you fight for each other, how you care. It is not weakness, it is something we lost long ago, and I fear that if we try to crush you, it will destroy both our worlds." She stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly in the crystal light. "I believe you can stop it." The human stared at her, his mind racing. The envoy, tiny and fragile, was placing a burden on him heavier than any weapon. If her words were true, then war was already brewing behind the council's walls. "You believe I can stop an entire council?" he asked bitterly. "I am only one man." Her voice shook, but her eyes did not waver. "One man who sees the truth. One man who is not blinded by fear or power. Sometimes one voice can change the course of many, The human exhaled slowly. His thoughts swirled like a storm. This was bigger than him, bigger than her. If the council planned war, then Earth was already in danger. And yet here stood their envoy, breaking every law of her people, just to warn him. He rose to his feet, his tall frame towering over her small form. "If I believe you, what do you want me to do?" Her gaze softened, filled with something almost pleading. "Teach me. Help me understand the human heart. If I can prove to my people that emotions bring strength, not chaos, then maybe they will listen." The human shook his head slightly. "And if they do not?" Her lips trembled. "Then I will be cast out, or worse, but at least I will have tried, at least I will not have betrayed what little hope remains." The human studied her in silence. He saw no lie in her eyes, only fear, determination, and a spark of something deeper, something human. "You are asking me to risk everything," he said at last. "Yes," she whispered, "and so am I." Suddenly, a faint crackle echoed from the wall. The crystals flickered as if disturbed by some hidden presence. The envoy froze, pressing her hand against the shimmering wall. "They are listening," she hissed. Her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "We do not have much time." The human's instincts flared. He scanned the room. Every shadow seemed dangerous now. He knew that one wrong step could mean death. Not just for him, but for her as well. The envoy rushed to him, her tiny hands gripping his sleeve. "Promise me, human, that you will not reveal what I said. Promise me you will keep this secret." His eyes met hers, steady and sharp. "Secrets have a price," he murmured. "But if your truth can stop a war, then I will keep it." Relief washed over her face, but it was brief. Her eyes flickered with dread as the door behind them pulsed faintly. Someone, or something, was just outside. She turned quickly, her voice barely audible. "Go now, before they catch you here. If they find you, they will accuse you of corruption, and I will lose everything." But the human did not move. His feet were rooted. His instincts told him leaving now might be more suspicious than staying. "I will not run," he said firmly. His voice carried the weight of unshakable resolve. "If we stand together, they cannot silence us so easily." Her eyes widened. Fear and admiration mixed in her expression. For the first time, she saw not just a human, but a protector. The hum outside grew louder. The crystals dimmed. The human's hand instinctively went to his side, ready for whatever came next. The envoy whispered again, her voice trembling. "Then it begins tonight, human. The path of truth is now set, and neither of us can turn back." The human nodded once, his jaw set. His eyes burned with the fire of a man who had chosen his side. The secret was out. The danger was real, and the night had only just begun to unfold its dark truth. The human stood in the envoy's quarters, the strange glow of crystals flickering faintly as if they sensed the tension in the air. He had just heard the truth. The council was not seeking peace, and yet here was this tiny envoy, risking everything. To stand against them, silence hung between them, heavy and unspoken. The envoy's hands trembled slightly, but her eyes remained locked on his. She seemed fragile, almost breakable, yet there was fire in her small frame. "You wish to understand us," the human said slowly. "But why emotions? Why focus on what your people fear most?" She stepped closer, her small shadow merging with his. "Because emotions are the root of everything you do," she whispered. "When humans fight, they fight for love. When humans die, they die for loyalty. When humans hope it gives them strength, my people, we cannot understand this. To us, emotion is chaos, but I see now it is order of a different kind." Her words struck him deeply. He thought of his home, of his comrades, of the faces of people he had lost in battles fought long before this mission. She was right, without emotion there was no meaning. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice low. Her eyes shimmered with light. "Teach me. Show me how humans feel, not the facts in your books, not the speeches your leaders give. Show me what you hold inside." The human's chest tightened. He had expected politics, not this, and yet in her voice he heard sincerity. She truly wanted to learn, not for herself, but for something larger. He sat down on the low seat again, motioning for her to sit across. Slowly she obeyed, her tiny figure lowering gracefully. The crystals above them pulsed brighter as though they listened too. "All right," he began. "I will tell you what love is." Her eyes widened, curiosity flashing in them. "Love?" she repeated. The word rolled off her tongue strangely, as though it carried more weight than she could hold. "Yes," he said. "Love is when you place someone else above yourself, when you are willing to fight, even die, to protect them, when their happiness matters more than your own. That is love." She leaned forward, her crystal eyes sparkling. "But that is dangerous," she whispered. "If you love, you can be hurt. If you love, you can lose." "Yes," he replied, his jaw tightening. "But that is what makes it powerful. It is not weakness, it is strength. The risk is what gives it meaning." The envoy lowered her head slightly, as if the idea weighed heavily on her. "We do not have this. My people are bound only by duty and law. There is no love, only order. But order without meaning feels empty." She looked back at him, her voice softer now. "What about trust? Tell me how humans can trust when betrayal exists." The human thought carefully. "Trust is not the absence of betrayal. Trust is the choice to believe, even when you know you can be betrayed. Without trust, you can never build anything. Not families, not friendships, not peace." The envoy's lips parted. She seemed shaken by the simplicity of his words. For a moment she stared at him as though he was something alien, even more alien than she was to him. "Humans are strange," she said finally. "You build your lives on things that can break, and yet that makes them stronger." He smiled faintly. "Yes, that is what makes us human." There was silence again, but this time it was not heavy. It was gentle, as though the room itself acknowledged the bond forming between them. Then suddenly, the envoy did something unexpected. She reached out, her tiny hand hovering inches above his. Her voice trembled. "May I?" The human hesitated. His training told him never to let his guard down, but something inside urged him to accept. Slowly, he placed his hand beneath hers. Her small palm touched his skin. It was cool, delicate, almost weightless. The crystals around them pulsed brighter, filling the room with soft light. "This is what I wanted," she whispered, "to feel the warmth of trust, even in silence. This is cultural exchange, but it is also more. It is connection." The human's breath caught. He had not expected this, not from an envoy who moments ago had revealed betrayal and war. And yet, in that fragile touch, he felt something pure. But the moment was cut short. A faint crackle echoed again, the walls shivered. Somewhere beyond her sealed door, whispers of alien voices stirred. Her hand tightened around his. "They are listening again," she said quickly. Panic flickered across her face. But she did not let go. "If they see us like this, they will not call it exchange, they will call it treason." The human clenched his jaw. He knew the danger. He also knew that walking away would mean losing the trust they had just built. "Let them watch," he said quietly, "because if they cannot see truth in this, then they will never see peace." Her eyes widened, shimmering with both fear and admiration. She had never heard defiance spoken so calmly. The bond between them was fragile but real. And though danger pressed against the door, neither of them pulled away. That night was no longer about culture. It was about something deeper, something forbidden, something that could either unite two worlds or destroy them both. The human and the tiny envoy sat in silence, their hands still connected. The glow of the crystals bathed them in soft light. But the peace was thin, fragile. It could shatter with the smallest sound. And then, it did. From somewhere outside her sealed door came a faint scrape, like metal against stone. The envoy's eyes widened, her breath caught. She pulled her hand back quickly. "They are here," she whispered, her voice shook with dread. The human stood at once, his body tense. He knew the sound of a watcher, a spy, someone hiding in the shadows. He had heard it too many times on battlefields when enemies crawled close in the dark. The envoy pressed her tiny palm against the shimmering wall. It rippled, showing faint outlines of the hallway beyond. In the shifting glow, they both saw it. A shadow moving, tall and thin, watching silently. Her chest rose sharply. "One of the council's agents," she said. Her voice was sharp, bitter. "They are suspicious. They sent someone to observe me." The human clenched his fists. His instincts screamed at him to act. But he knew charging into the open would only confirm the spy's suspicions. Instead, he leaned closer to her, his voice low. "What do they know?" The envoy shook her head. "Perhaps nothing, perhaps everything, but if they saw you in my quarters, they will twist it. They will say I am compromised, that humans corrupt even envoys. They will use this to crush peace before it even begins." Digao. Human's jaw tightened. He had expected resistance, but not this soon, and yet it was always the same. Truth never walked alone. Shadows always followed it. The spy lingered outside, unmoving, patient as a predator. The envoy's hands trembled as she turned back to him. "You must leave before they act, if they confront. You hear? They will call you traitor and me a liar." But the human shook his head firmly. "No, running will only make us look guilty. If we face them, at least we hold control." Her eyes widened at his boldness. Fear mixed with something deeper. Admiration. A sharp click echoed from the corridor. The door shimmered as if someone tried to override its seal. The envoy gasped and pressed her hand harder against it, for now it held. But the pressure outside grew stronger. "They are trying to break in," she whispered. "We cannot stop them for long." The human scanned the room quickly, searching for anything that could help. His eyes landed on the floating crystals, glowing faintly with energy. "Can these be used?" he asked. The envoy shook her head. "They are not weapons. They are memories. Each crystal holds the thoughts of my ancestors. They respond only to truth, not violence." The irony struck him sharply. Truth glowing in fragile stones, while lies prowled outside in the dark. Another crackle filled the air, louder this time. The door shimmered violently. The spy was close, too close. The human could almost feel the gaze through the wall. "We must play carefully," he muttered. "If they think you are weak, they will remove you. If they think I am dangerous, they will demand my exile." The envoy swallowed hard, her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then what do we do?" He looked at her steadily, his voice calm but sharp. "We give them nothing. We sit here as if nothing is wrong. Let them wonder. Let them fear what they cannot prove." Her lips parted. She hesitated, but then she nodded slowly. "Yes, that may work, but it is dangerous." He gave a faint, grim smile. "Danger is familiar to me." The door stopped trembling. The scraping sound faded. Silence returned, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of a predator waiting in the dark. "They are still out there," the envoy said quietly. "They will watch all night. They will report everything they see. And tomorrow, the council will question me." The human sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving the glowing wall. "Then let them, if they want to test us. We will show them nothing but patience. They cannot fight what they cannot understand." The envoy sank into her seat, opposite him, her face pale, her hands clenched in her lap, yet her eyes never left his. "You are not afraid," she whispered. "Almost in disbelief I am," he replied calmly. "But fear is only useful if it guides you, not if it rules you." Her lips trembled, her gaze softened. "That is why I chose you, human. That is why I trust you." The crystals pulsed faintly, at her words glowing brighter as though they too believed. For a moment the fear in the room lessened, replaced by the fragile spark of defiance, but beyond the door the spy still lingered, hidden, waiting. The envoy closed her eyes briefly, her voice dropping to a trembling whisper. "This is only the beginning. If they suspect me now, the days ahead will be worse. They will not stop until they break me or break you." The human leaned forward, his eyes hard, his voice low and steady. "Then let them try, because shadows cannot survive where truth walks." She looked at him, and for the first time that night she smiled faintly, fragile but real. Outside, the spy moved at last, the sound of retreating footsteps fading into the distance, but both of them knew the truth. The shadow was not gone. It was only stepping back, waiting for another chance to strike, and as the crystals dimmed once more, the envoy whispered, "We are no longer alone in this, human. The shadows have chosen their side. Now we must choose ours." The human did not sleep that night. He sat in the envoy's quarters, his eyes fixed on the sealed door. Every faint sound in the corridor made his muscles tighten. Every shadow felt like a threat waiting to strike. The envoy paced the room restlessly. Her tiny steps made no sound, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. She knew the spy outside had seen enough to plant suspicion in the council's mind. She knew by dawn she would be called to account. "They will summon me," she whispered. Her voice cracked with tension. "They will demand answers. They will accuse me of betrayal. And if they discover you here—" She stopped, her voice shaking too much to continue. The human stood slowly, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the glowing walls. "Then we prepare," he said firmly. "We do not hide. If they want to question us, we face them together." Her eyes widened in shock. "You cannot. If you appear with me, they will call it proof. They will say I allowed you to poison my loyalty. Or," he interrupted calmly, "they will see that not all humans are their enemy. They will see one who stands without fear." The envoy shook her head quickly. "You do not understand. They are not searching for peace. They are searching for reasons to destroy it. They will twist your courage into evidence of danger." Silence followed, heavy and sharp. The human clenched his fists. His instincts screamed at him to protect her. Yet his mind warned that every move could tighten the noose around them. At last he asked, "Then what do you want me to do? Stay hidden? Escape before they arrive?" Her lips trembled. "If you leave, they may not find proof against me, but if you stay, they will make me answer for everything." The human studied her carefully, her small form, her glowing eyes filled with both dread and defiance. She was torn between survival and truth, between silence and hope. "Running is not in my nature," he said finally. His voice carried the weight of soldiers who had faced impossible odds before. "But this is not only my fight, it is yours too, so tell me, Envoy, do we escape or do we confront them?" Her breath caught. She lowered her gaze for a moment, struggling with the choice that could end her life. Finally, she whispered, "If we run, they will chase us. If we fight, they may kill us. Either way, we cannot return to silence. We must choose." Before she could say more, the door shuddered. A sharp sound echoed through the chamber. The seal flickered, as if struck from outside. "They are here," she gasped. Her small body froze. "The council has sent guards." The human moved instantly, stepping between her and the door. His eyes narrowed, his body tense. "Then we have no more time. We decide now." The envoy's mind raced. She knew what awaited: interrogation, punishment, exile, or worse. But then she looked at him, the human who had stood with her, the human who spoke truth even when surrounded by lies, and something inside her shifted. "No more running," she said, her voice suddenly steady. "If they want answers, I will give them. If they want to silence me, then they must do it openly before their own council." The human nodded once, respect flashing in his eyes. "Then we confront them," he said. The door hissed open. At last, bright light from the corridor spilled in. Dark figures stood beyond it. Guards of the council, their eyes cold, their weapons gleaming faintly. "Envoy," one of them said harshly, "you are summoned." Her heart pounded, her legs shook, but she lifted her head high. "I will come," she said clearly. Her voice did not tremble this time. The guards' eyes flicked to the human, their expressions hardened. "And the human?" one asked sharply. The envoy stepped forward, her voice quick and firm. "He comes with me as my guest, as part of the exchange I was ordered to conduct. If you deny this, then you deny the council's own command." The guards hesitated, Their eyes narrowing, they had not expected defiance. At last one motioned coldly. "Very well. Both of you will answer before the council." The human and the envoy walked side by side down the glowing corridor. Every step echoed like thunder in their ears. Shadows clung to the walls, but they did not falter. The envoy whispered as they walked, her voice low so only he could hear. "This is the moment. If they break us, the hope dies here, but if we stand, if we endure, maybe truth will survive." The human's jaw tightened. "Then we will endure," he said. The massive doors of the council chamber loomed ahead, glowing with etched symbols of authority. Behind those doors sat the rulers of her people, powerful, merciless, suspicious. The envoy's heart raced, but for the first time she did not feel small, not with the human walking beside her. When the doors opened, they stepped into a vast chamber filled with towering alien figures. The council's glowing eyes turned toward them, filled with judgment, filled with hunger for weakness. The head counselor's voice boomed, cold and sharp. "Envoy, you are accused of disloyalty. Explain yourself, and explain the presence of this human in your quarters." The envoy stepped forward, her small frame trembling but her voice clear. "I have nothing to hide. I invited him for cultural exchange. As I was commanded. If you call that betrayal, then you call your own orders treason." Gasps echoed across the chamber. The human remained silent, but his presence beside her was louder than any word. The council leaned forward, their eyes narrowing. The chamber filled with tension. The envoy's fate, and perhaps the fate of two worlds, hung in the balance. The chamber was silent. The envoy's words echoed against the high walls. Her small figure looked fragile before the towering council, but her voice had carried strength. The human stood beside her, tall and calm, his presence sharp against the cold stares of alien rulers. The head counselor's eyes glowed faintly. "You speak boldly, envoy," he said slowly, his voice heavy, with suspicion. "Too boldly for one of your station. Tell us, did this human teach you rebellion?" The envoy lifted her chin, her tiny frame trembling but unyielding. "No," she answered firmly. "This human taught me truth. Truth is not rebellion. It is survival. Without it, there can be no peace." Murmurs rippled across the chamber. Some council members whispered sharply among themselves. Their voices carried fear, anger, and doubt. The human remained silent, but he watched carefully. Every word she spoke could mean life or death, not only for her, but for him too. He saw how her people's eyes narrowed, how they searched for weakness in her. At last, another counselor leaned forward. "Envoy, you dare to stand against us? You dare to claim truth where we see danger?" Her small hands clenched tightly, but her voice did not falter. "Yes, I dare," she said, "because I have seen what humans are. They are not chaos. They are not corruption. They are meaning. They are strength born from emotion. And if we destroy them, we destroy what little hope remains for ourselves." The chamber shook with outrage. Some counselors hissed, some pounded their fists against the glowing table. The head counselor's voice cut through the noise. "Enough. You speak of love, of trust, of weakness. Such things break order, they shatter control, and you dare to embrace them." The envoy turned slowly, her eyes meeting the human's. Then she faced the council once more. "Yes, I embrace them, because control without meaning is emptiness. Order without compassion is slavery. We are not alive if we do not feel. I will not deny that truth." The human felt a surge in his chest, admiration and respect mixing together. She had chosen her path even knowing the danger. The council leaned back, silent now. Their glowing eyes burned as they studied her, studied him. The air felt heavy, thick with judgment. At last the head counselor spoke again. "And you, human?" His voice rumbled like thunder. "What say you? Do you claim her words? Or do you hide behind her courage?" The human stepped forward. His voice was steady, deep, unshaken. "I claim them," he said. "Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. We fight. We bleed. We lose. But it is because we love, because we trust, because we hope. These are not weaknesses. They are what make us strong, and if you fear that, it is because you know it is something you cannot control. The chamber fell still. His words echoed like a challenge. The envoy's small hand brushed against her side. Hidden from view, a silent gesture of gratitude. Her eyes shone faintly as though his words had lifted her higher than fear could reach. The head counselor's face remained unreadable. For a long moment, the chamber held only silence. Then, slowly, he spoke. Perhaps there is strength in what you say. Perhaps there is danger too, but strength and danger are often the same. Whispers spread again. Some voices sounded curious, others hostile. The council was divided. The envoy's heart pounded. This was the moment everything balanced upon. If you will not destroy him, one counselor spat, then exile them both. Let them carry their truth far from us. No, another countered sharply. If they speak of meaning, let them prove it. Let them walk among both our people. If truth survives, then it is real. The debate grew heated. Voices clashed like blades. But through it all, the envoy stood tall. The human stood steady. Neither moved. Neither faltered. Finally, the head counselor raised his hand. Silence fell again. His glowing eyes swept over them both. We will not condemn you tonight, he said. But neither will we accept you fully. You claim humans are strength, you claim emotions bring order, then you will prove it, you will continue your exchange. And we will watch. If you fail, both your lives are forfeit. The envoy bowed her head slightly. Then I accept, she said. Her voice carried no fear, only resolve. The human gave a single nod, his jaw set. So be it. The council dismissed them. The massive doors opened once more. The two walked out side by side, the heavy air of judgment still clinging to their shoulders. As the doors closed behind them, the envoy exhaled shakily. For the first time, she allowed herself to look up at the human. You stood with me, she whispered. Even when they threatened you, why? He looked down at her, his expression calm. Because trust is a choice, and I chose you. Her chest tightened. Her eyes shimmered faintly. It was more than she had expected, more than she had dared to hope. They walked through the silent corridor. Together, shadows still lingered. Spies still watched, but something had changed. They were no longer two strangers bound by orders. They were allies bound by truth. And as they stepped into the quiet glow of the station's night, the envoy whispered softly, almost to herself, Perhaps this is what my people have forgotten. Perhaps this is what we must learn again. The human said nothing, but his silence carried more weight than words. For in that silence walked a new bond, fragile but real, a bond that might one day shape the fate of two worlds.